How are we starting this one, Jim?
Oh, like this. Good morning, oh, dang. Couldn't have done that if I'd tried.
I think that's a great start.
I want to make sure everybody notices my awesome Rabby the Pooh shirt.
Yeah, that's vintage.
Hashtag one of the six, man. Going way back.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't hurt anyone's feelings when I say, like, what's happened to the Chanterant since one of them got a girlfriend?
I think they even
You
got
know?
married, didn't they? That's serious. That's a
I
real
think so.
deal.
And I don't think any spouse could support some of what went on that podcast.
That's
But
fair. Yeah.
it was great while it lasted. Just please make sure you read all my disclaimers underneath this video now that I said that.
We're saying it's a lot of fun. Not saying that we're associated with it in any way.
Yeah. Yes, the views of the host do not necessarily represent the opinions of Piper's Dojo LLC.
Yeah. And also, Rabby, dude, Big Rab had a big year last year. Had a lot going on. And you got a lot going on getting ready to go to Winter Storm and stuff like that too.
Yeah, at the time we're being recorded, yeah. At the time this is being recorded, I haven't yet completely flopped on live television in front of the entire bagpipe world.
Yeah, it'll be fun because obviously something like that's going to happen. And so it'll be fun that this will be coming out about the same time that's happening live. So everybody click over to whatever coverage you can get of Winter Storm Day.
I'm just feeling, it's just my prediction. We'll see.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're about to go to Kansas City. Things are happening. After Kansas City, though, can be a great time. Like I tell people, that's when my New Year's resolutions actually kick in.
Oh, yeah. You kind of have to get through the wild storm of the beginning of the year, the winter storm of the beginning of the year, if you will.
Martin Luther King Day is really my New Year's Day because you got to get through Kansas City first, and then you can reset a little bit.
Would you say that's how you get into the rhythm of the year?
Oh, what? Wow, that was that really good or really bad? I don't know.
It's at one end of the spectrum or the other. It's definitely not in the middle, that's for sure.
Yeah, if you please everyone, you please no one, Jim.
That's right.
Half of the world, and I'm not sure I'm in that half. Really thought that was epic segue there.
Yeah, because they were talking rhythm for bagpipers. Is there such a thing? Is there bagpiping rhythm, or is it more just like rhythm is rhythm and you happen to be doing it with bagpipes?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about this over the years together, Jim, how important rhythm is.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've done here is it looks like you're getting into my little rhythm for bagpipers course here on the dojo. And I think you've got some questions for me.
I do have some questions. Yeah, absolutely.
I think we could start off by saying rhythm is what it's all about, man.
I agree with you. And I think we have brought up before, like, there's resistance to this often because it's often you got to use metronomes and stuff like that. And everybody's like, no, I want to be creative and free.
I think we can even take a step back, though. I'm going to blow your mind. This isn't even in the course. And I may or may not blow your mind. But I think that it would be really easy to say, like, if you think of all the different arts, music is the art of what? It's the art of, it'd be interesting to see. Music is the art of what, Jim?
Pretty sounds.
Yeah, music is the art of sounds.
And pretty doesn't have to be the case, actually.
No,
just sounds. Pretty, let's just say sounds.
Yeah. Exactly. Pretty does not have to be the case. As a matter of fact, some of the best music is not pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And just like some of the best visual art's not necessarily pretty. And then then there's like film, and then there's dance, right? But anyway, it would be tempting to say music is the art of sound. But, man, as I age, Jim, and sometimes I find myself thinking about this, and obviously music is about sound, but probably even more than that, or as a precursor to that, sound is not a possible phenomenon in the universe without its other sort of silent partner in crime, which is time. Sound is not a possible phenomenon in the universe. It cannot happen. There is no such thing as sound, Jim, unless you also have time. It's not possible. Can't happen.
I'm interested in two ways. I'm interested in, are you talking like we get to the point of even like sound waves require time is one of the X, Y, or Z components to make a sound wave function?
Yeah,
like that's part of it?
So it's like sound. What is sound? Sound is caused by pressure variances It's not even really. It's caused by molecules bouncing around in the air. And then we have these really cool interpretive devices, which is basically the same as this microphone right here. We have a diaphragm-ish type thing inside of our skull on two sides that molecules can bounce on. And then we have a little thingy, and then a bunch of other little thingies convert that into electronic impulses that our brain has learned to interpret.
Every step along the way, Andrew, these little thingies do blow my mind. Like I don't think I'm the dumbest guy in the world. I know I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but it's something
You're
that
medium. You're medium. That's why like you're right in the middle.
Extra medium.
Yeah. And that's why you make such a great co-host. You know?
But I feel like the visual of a needle on a record is a really great way to, like, that's one example of all these little thingies, right? Where it's like, how on earth is vibrations to this little thingy making not just sounds, but so many different sounds that I can go, that sounds like a trumpet. That sounds like Andrew Douglas. That means something to me. Like, I can interpret these words. Like, that's happening on that needle, and then it's going through the thing into the cord or into the amplifier or whatever, and then through the air, and then wiggling another little thingy in my ear. And my brain gets it. That's wild.
And the human interpretation of sound is primitive compared to like the echolocation of bats and stuff.
Yeah, there's some creatures that hear stuff so much more precisely. And
they hear so well that they don't even need eyes to fly around at extremely way higher speeds than humans move around.
Yeah, with multiple variables. They're cruising through branches and around each other and catching bugs and all kinds of stuff.
That's right. And they see using sound. And they don't see the way we see. Like, only we see the way we see. And it all has to do with these crazy machines that our bodies have that convert stimulus into electronic signals for our brain. And that's really, really cool. But I guess my point is none of that is possible without the passage of time. It's just not going to happen. So like, you cannot have molecules can't bounce off each other, right? So you can't have vibrations. You can't have hertz. All of that is reliant on the temporal realm. It's all reliant on time. It doesn't exist without it. And you could contrast that with, let's say, a comic strip, where the existence of the comic strip doesn't rely on time. Once it's created, it sits in any time, right? It sits at any point in time, relatively unchanged. Now, granted, time is going to be required in order for you to experience it. But like for it to exist, it doesn't require time. But in order for any sound of any kind to exist, time is a requirement.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I could have the comic strip laid out in front of me. The whole thing is there all in an instant. It's all there all the time.
It's there. Yeah. And obviously it took time to create it.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. But once it's there, or if you look at a Vincent van Gogh painting, it's like that's hundreds of years old. And right. I don't really remember. Maybe not hundreds. When was he doing
a while?
That?
It's been more than 10 years. It's been more than 10 years since he was
way
painting,
more than 10.
Sure. Yeah.
More than 10 and I don't know. But anyway,
probably 1,000. Yeah, somewhere there.
But like those things live forever. By the way, and maybe there's some significance to this. I've never really thought about it. But once I write down my music on a piece of paper, it becomes timeless. It doesn't require time anymore to transmit that information.
That is one of the things that's so interesting about written music, right? That once you understand that these symbols mean sounds, and it could be that they were put down hundreds of years ago, it becomes this like wild time capsule.
It's yet another interpretation medium, right? Because a lot of the bagpipe tunes pipers play, let's take Piobaireachd, for example, right? It was stored for posterity in many different ways. And then the buck stopped when the Piobaireachd Society decided to formally notate a lot of them in a way that a lot of us process, to the point where now we assume that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah, it's what you're supposed to do when you want to learn a Piobaireachd. You got to grab that Piobaireachd Society setting. But anyway, slightly off topic. Piobaireachd is known for being very long. But long how? Long in the sense that it takes a particularly long period of time. And by the way, the nuances, like the only thing that can save a Piobaireachd from being completely boring and useless would be all of the nuances in how you play that music. But because the bagpipe is such a static or such it has limited ability to do very much, it's really just time subtleties that makes, it's not the only thing, but it's the major player. It's the number one guy. Strong, weak, medium weak is all. What are we talking about there?
Right. Push and
You don't
pull, all
actually
of that.
hold notes. You can't hold a sound that I'm aware of.
Hmm.
You're not holding the note. What are you doing? You're doing something. You're doing something with the passage of time to produce these effects, right? Heavy left foot. It's just talking about time.
Yeah.
Steady beat. It's just talking about time. Don't slow down. Don't speed up. That's all time. Tuning is all time. Tuning is changing the rate at which things are vibrating.
And those rates, those figures that we use are time-based too, aren't
Yes,
they?
rate. Rate is a time. Rate is a word that's strictly about time, right?
Mhm.
Everything. It's all time. Playing in unison with your other bandmates. It's all time.
Yeah. That's
What is
educating
unison?
time.
Unison is playing the same thing at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about time. And so music, art of sound, right? Okay. But there's that hidden partner in crime. By the way, I don't think music is alone. We've already talked about it a little bit, but for example, film, right? So you could take a picture of a bird, or you could take a film of a bird. And the main thing that separates the two is that one of them relies so heavily on the passage of time, and it's how things are changing over time.
Yeah,
Like
and
there's
that makes sense. There are movies. Shoot, I guess the more you think about it, the more everything is everything, huh? Because I was just thinking about like pacing as well, from scene to scene, and the way that characters say things. That can come up in literature and in theater and stuff like that as well. Time can
yes,
become an element that gets pulled into a work, but I wonder if it's
storytelling. Yeah, storytelling is very
storytelling for
temporal.
sure.
Music might have the most intimate relationship. I'm trying to think of other things. Oh, well, I suppose dance, some of that stuff.
Sure, that makes a lot of
Maybe,
sense.
yeah. But music even more so because, and then why am I thinking that? I'm not quite sure. And
Well,
this
there's
isn't
always
a-
that effect of if there's a thing that you do a lot or that you're very into, you see the nuances and how far it goes in a deeper way. So it's possible that's affecting us a little bit right now too.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe it's just because there are so few other distractions that makes
Mm,
the relationship between music and time so it has so much depth. And so
yeah,
anyway, I think about that a lot. I think about how really yes, I'm making sounds, but is this really the art of time?
yeah. No,
It's not
I see
actually
what you
the
mean.
art
That
of
is
sound at
interesting.
all.
And speaking of time, Andrew, right at the beginning of this course, you come right out the gate saying, "It has taken me a very long time
Yeah.
to finally put together a basic rhythm course."
Yeah, and and it is a very basic course. Like it's not like one of the reasons it took such a long time is because anytime you write something about it, by the time you're done writing it, you're like, man, that's not quite right, is it?
Yeah, you
Because
want to
like,
crumple up that paper and toss it and start again. Yeah.
yeah, like we're basically talking about, but physicists don't even understand what time is.
Mm.
Nobody understands it. It doesn't make any sense. There's a great chapter in one of David Deutsch's books about just how completely nonsensical our understanding of time is, which would be fun to get into someday, but not
Yeah.
today. But let's dive in, Jim, and see if we can make this like not just a smoked meat World War II
You bet. Yeah.
dadcast.
Yeah, you bet. So in that introductory material for this course, you just say that rhythm can be a difficult thing to talk about. And
Yeah,
so
man.
it makes sense to at the very outset, let's like define some terms. So there are a few key terms. If I'm remembering right, there are 4 key terms here that are worth talking about a little bit, because then you can use those terms throughout the course and know what is being talked about. Because I know for me at least, even right now, after having worked through the course a bit, and after I'm an old guy and I've been doing something with music since I was like
So
4
old.
years old.
So
So old.
and wise.
But I still take things like the words time, tempo, beat, rhythm, and several others, and they're kind of all the same thing in my head. And so getting clear about what we're talking about when we talk about each of these things is useful for the course.
They're all
For the conversation.
time-based words.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, like you think it's tempting to think, or in our mind, they're stored in the music department, but they all could be stored in the time department. And the more you recognize that, the better.
And that's kind of a mathy department for some of us too, yeah. Which can be intimidating sometimes. And I think that's part of the resistance that some of us have. I'm counting myself in that camp. And so being able to chill and take this one bit at a time, I think has been helpful to me to not be like, I can't do math, I'm trying to do music. So you do mention at one point that like to some degree, this is something you can try talking about, but you also have to do it. Like doing it makes a big difference. It's throughout the course, you pull in some recordings and examples and stuff like that. And as we define our first term, we might pull in a little bit of some audio here. We're trying to define beats. What are
Oh,
beats, or what is
yeah.
the beat?
No, Jim, you don't have to. Everybody knows what a beat is.
Never mind. We'll move on.
Yeah, what's the audio that we have?
This is, I want to make sure I give credit, Active Child, Hanging On. So as we listen here, what you suggest in the course is listen to this audio and notice that there are a lot of rhythmic events happening, and they're not all happening at the same time. And they're not all happening at the same time as the beat. There'll be a regular beat, but they are all happening in relationship to that beat. Here we go.
Cool. By the way, hats off to me for picking like such a great example of
That is a great example, yeah.
it's called Hanging On by a band called Active Child. And I highly recommend the music video for it is amazing.
Mm.
It has a fly fishing theme.
Oh, interesting. I would not have imagined that.
Yeah. Anyway, so hats off to the creator of this course, me, for picking a perfect example. By the way, once the song develops, a drum kit comes in and it becomes particularly easy to find where the beat is. And you'll find your body like, moving to that beat. But the point I want to make is there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on.
Yeah.
Right. So what do we come up with? Because I remember having to think about this. What's my wording for the definition of the beat? A beat is but by the way, you could look this up on Google, and like the definitions of these things are oftentimes things that don't quite compute for me. So this is what I came up with. A beat is a regularly recurring pulse or emphasis point in a piece of music. And then I think this is the important part, that all of the other rhythmic events are centered around. So it's like an anchoring point, but it's a regularly recurring anchoring point that other things are centered around.
So that track we just listened to, it has a regularly occurring pulse throughout, and that's what we're calling the beat. But obviously, if we took all the instrumentation that we heard in that short 30-second clip and compressed all those sounds so that they could only occur on that pulse, maybe it'd still be cool, but it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same thing. It wouldn't. It probably wouldn't be as interesting.
And it's a musical choice. Like some of those wild accents and glitchy sounds that they have, it's a choice to not put it exactly on the beat. And instead of being exactly on the beat, it has a certain relationship to the beat. In this case, let's listen to it again. It's the lowest note of the harp. So the harp plays a reliable groove. Okay. And which we'll get to, but the lowest note of that is actually where the beat is. And then it builds a whole bunch of other stuff onto it, but they establish it early. One of the things about the beat and the establishment of it is that if the audience can't hear it, it's not going to work. Right. But they do establish it very early. The moment you press play, we hear that da 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 da, and that's the lowest of those notes there. That's going to be our beat. And everything else is going to revolve around that. Let's just have one more listen to it.
Here we go.
Some of those accents are on the beat. It's cool. So neat. Yeah, it's cool. Very nice.
Very good one. I think in the spirit, maybe this is so basic it doesn't even bear pointing out, but in the spirit of recognizing that sometimes this is something you got to do in order to be able to talk about, if it's at all helpful, when listening to that clip or anything else, wherever one finds themselves nodding their head or tapping their foot or something like that, that's probably usually going to be the beat. So if we're going to be talking about the difference between the beat and the rhythm and the tempo and the groove, etc., that's maybe a way to go, okay, what's the beat here? That's the beat right there.
Yeah. And by the way, if you can't do it, right? Like there are some people who can't do it. And I don't know, it's probably not because they can't, but just they haven't done that much of it.
Yeah.
I think. My kids do it now, like intuitively. They can when they hear music. You can see them like understanding where the beat is. But like if you can't do it, if you want to be a bagpiper or a drummer, you're going to be in trouble, right?
These are key elements to doing it. Yeah,
we need to be able to identify that beat. And when music turns on, you need to move your body a little bit. Yeah, you need to be able to do it. And if you can't do it, it's worth turning on music and finding it. So beats are like the recurring point of emphasis that everything else is going to orbit around. And by the way, you could also have phrases which are kind of like ultra beats, right? So you could have groups of beats, packages of beats that music is organized around as well. So we can get really crazy about this, but yeah, the beat is like the sun of the solar system. Everything else, it's going to be in different combinations or arrays, but it does have that one unifying element, right? Where things are going to revolve around it.
I hope this doesn't belabor the point too much. If it's at all useful, I thought that this was a really good written out example further on in the course where you have a recording of Jewel, born in my hometown, by the way, little local hero.
Oh, interesting.
Singing. Yeah.
I'm
She
not
didn't
like
grow up
Jewel.
there, but
Jewel is cool.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Jewel, but this just ended up in the course because it's just a great example. Well, she's obviously like super, super incredible singer. But this just ended up, I wanted something like super basic that everyone could relate to.
We're all familiar with it. I think that's key. I
Yeah.
think that's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. What I want people to understand is there are other musical events happening,
Yeah.
but there's that unifying beat. And then we draw it out on the text where twinkle, twinkle, little star. There's 4 beats there.
Yeah.
Even though there's 9 syllables, maybe there's
Mhm.
4 beats. And then some of the syllables happen in between beats.
I felt like that was a helpful thing to point out too. Do you want to hear audio of?
Yeah.
Let's play that. And
Hopefully Jewel won't mind.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, up above the world so high.
I guess her guitar helps to keep the beat as well, doesn't it?
Of course, definitely. Yeah. But
Yeah.
notice how all the guitaring and the singing, it orbits around the same beat. It's not
Yeah.
different beats. It's not different beats. It's the same. It's all organized around that unifying thing.
And I know this is hopping ahead. This is my own anxiety or worry about my own playing. It's something I've been trying to be aware of and improve anyway. Like, I feel like what I can recognize happening when I play is that it's in the spaces between the main beats, for the most part, that I end up compressing that space too much, and it causes me to rush. I want my playing to sound more chill, relaxed, and regular, and it's not. I keep getting compressed, and so I really like this textual representation of Twinkle Twinkle, because you point out, you ask the question in the course, you say, can you hear that the non-bolded syllables are actually in between the main beats? And so recognizing that we have twee, 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 but we have twinkle, twinkle, little, because like I could be like twinkle, twinkle, you know what I mean? And like there could be other ways to play with how you do the stuff between those beats, but if it's not intentional, then it probably isn't going to come out right. It doesn't come out right for me. And so recognizing like the sub beats or the things happening between the beats as being important,
Yes.
feels
Well, it's
important
an
for me.
infinite, it seems to exist on an infinite scale. For example, if you decided to focus only on every other beat, you could. Or if you decided to focus on some of the subdivisions and think of them as your primary orbital point, you could. So it's always open to interpretation, and the rabbit hole goes infinitely deep. But yeah, we are going to talk about subdivisions of the beat here shortly. You know, the other thing too is Jewel has that like beautiful vibrato on some of the notes.
Mm-hmm.
And notice that vibrato, it's tempting to think that's a musical word, but it's not. It's a time word, right? So she's modulating the
Oh, and
frequency.
it's so regular, yeah.
She's modulating, another time word, the frequency, another time word, of the note, right? But let's listen to it one more time.
Yeah, you bet.
Now, the modulation does not seem to correlate to the beat to me. So that's like a non-beat based activity, but it still requires and involves the passage of time. Like she could vibrato faster or slower, but these are all time-based decisions. This is all time.
Gotcha. Yeah.
By the way, do you know that the second note of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star is 150% the frequency of the first note.
Oh, that's what the difference in pitch. That's what.
Like the first note and the second note. Anyway, I might be actually not correct about that the more I think about that. But it's a beautiful, simple ratio in terms of how fast note 1 is vibrating relative to note 2. It's all math and it's all the passage of time.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think about.
It's a fifth, right?
Yeah,
and
it's a fifth.
That is, if I'm not, like, this is making a pretty broad statement, but a lot of like small pipes and such that have differently tuned drones.
Yeah, not small pipes.
The fifth is pretty default. Is pretty much a default. You're going to have an A
not
and
small
an
pipes
E.
though, Jim. Not small pipes though, Jim. Everything.
No? Everything. There you
man.
go. Yeah, it's a nice interval. Everybody likes that interval.
But the reason is all because of time and how things interact. Yeah. Another interesting thing that I've learned in my travels, Jim, is that there's actually a point where the ear stops hearing discrete events and instead joins it into a continuous event. And that's approximately 20 hertz. So have you ever heard the drummer do the drum roll thing? And they start off with the taps, and then they make the taps faster and faster. And there's a certain point where it becomes so fast that it now sounds like a continuous sound.
Yes.
It turns out it's right around 20 hertz where that happens.
Interesting.
Right? So that's where rhythm could become pitch. It's right around 20 hertz. It's fascinating. There's no real difference between rhythm and pitch other than how fast things are happening. And then fast is, of course, a time word. Okay, let's hear Jewel one more time.
Here she goes.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. When the blazing sun is gone.
I never really, is she making up that second verse or is that the second verse?
I've never sung that second verse myself. I think that might be Jewel's original take on it at that point.
I like it. It's cool. It is what it is. That's great.
Yeah, I paid more attention to the vibrato that time than I usually do. It was interesting.
What's funny is if you just heard that on a playlist or something, you'd listen to it once and move on. But like just taking a small chunk and listening to it a couple times, like there's so much there.
Yeah. Isn't that a fun experience, recognizing that you go pretty deep with a lot of stuff? And
anything.
It's all around you,
And in this case, the things that are there are all good. If you were to do that with your own music, by the way, I know this is true about Jewel too, because I've heard her discuss it. But like when she goes in and drills down into her own music, you don't like it.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of stuff that you just...
It's comforting to think that's true for the greats as well as for the normies.
Yeah,
but
I know it's true for me. You could go infinitely deep, and then how deep do you want to go? I don't know, man. I don't know. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, you bet. So the next and final phase of kind of clarifying and defining the beat,
beats.
we pull in some bagpipes as well as an example.
If you don't think of this person when you think about beats, when it comes to bagpipers, then you should. I don't know.
You should start doing so.
So when I was doing this, I was like, I need a bagpipe example. And then there's only one person you could turn to for this, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. But like the person I think of when I think about beats and bagpiping, I'm just teeing this up so people listening, well, and let's play it. Let's play it.
Yeah.
Let's not say who it is yet.
You bet.
Yeah.
They make it really easy to find the beat, to tap along, to nod your head or tap your foot along. Not only because they're playing rock steady, of course, but because you can hear them stomping. So just join right in.
Yeah. And you sometimes hear that in the bagpipe world. You hear people criticizing like the fact that you can hear the person's foot.
I've always liked it. I'm not one to criticize that.
But what's the difference between that and Jewel playing the guitar in the previous example? What's the difference? Right. It's just another sound that's oriented around the beat. And it's not unmusical. It's not random. I suppose if you were stepping on like an inharmonic metallic like bell or something, it could be really distracting.
You,
But here
you
it's
could be walking through a room that the floor is completely covered with those rubber chickens that honk when you step on them.
yes, and that could
In
be
that
bad,
situation, it might not be ideal.
yeah. But in this case, you just hear a little thump that helps show us the beat. And by the way, this is a march. So like, yeah, I think within reason, if it's well presented, I think that's fine. So obviously in bagpipe music, there's a whole bunch of stuff. We got doublings and we got grace notes and we've got
Yeah.
dotted notes and cut notes and all this stuff. But it's so like crystal clear in that example, how it's all oriented around that beat. And like
Yeah.
you said, the foot helps us really hear what it is. And that, of course, is the great Angus MacColl, playing John McDonald of Glencoe.
Yeah, you mentioned in the course at this point that this final example does have a lot of notes in it and that they're firing at fast intervals. But you can back up and recognize that they're all organized around that regular
Yeah.
beat, that,
And if they
that
weren't-
recurring pulse.
And another thing to think about is if they weren't beautifully centered around the sun, centered around the beat, if they weren't centered around the beat, it would sound like garbage. Like
Even
the
if we
beat-
couldn't define why it wasn't working, it wouldn't be working.
That's right. So if there were planets spinning around in a circle, like it wouldn't make any sense, and it would actually, and it wouldn't work at all. Laws of physics wouldn't allow it. But like the beat comes first. The beat is the big kahuna, and all of that other stuff only works if that foundational central element is there and it's pure.
I think it's come up before in here, Andrew, but still, I think it's worth maybe mentioning again, just in case, that probably I'm not the only one who's had the experience of, especially being like in front of people, whether it's in a show or in a competition. You can feel when the beat is lost. You know what I mean? Like for me, one of the most anxiety producing experiences is having a crowd start clapping along. And I wish that wasn't the case because I think that's cool. When I'm in a crowd, I want to clap along. I like the participatory kind of feeling of that. But if the clapping gets out of control or I get out of control, then it's painfully obvious that I'm out. And I've had a couple situations like that where the clapping's going, it's all going great. And then I get off enough that the clapping isn't working anymore and the clapping dies down.
Yeah.
And it's like I start blushing and I just try to finish the set and go away.
There's
You
a
know?
great YouTube video of Harry Connick Jr., who's not just a great actor, but also a great musician. But the audience gets so far ahead and he copes with it by adding a fifth beat. And the
Pretty
audience has
cool.
no idea. The audience
Yeah, it
has
just
no
makes
idea.
it work.
But in order to get back on, he does that because it gets so far off. Yeah. One of the things that you also discover is that without training, the human mind will always execute early relative to the beat. Always.
Makes a lot of sense. I know mine does.
never
That's
late.
for sure.
It's never late and it's always early. Always. We've taught thousands of people at the dojo. At first, everybody comes in early. The human mind, like when it comes to trying to create your own beat, will always come in early. I don't know why. Always, though. There are no exceptions. Earliness is the tendency. And so when we train our ability to execute the beat, we're going to have to like fight that. And so what's interesting is you can tell when someone's not on the beat, but in order to do it yourself, it requires training to be able to achieve that. And it's the same with singing, obviously. By the way, earliness, and then when an amateur like myself tries to sing in tune, I'll always be flat without training.
Well, yeah, I don't have a lot of vocal training myself, but I do remember that coming up in some of the musical theater that I've done, that especially if you're going to hold a note, climb. In your head, you got to be telling yourself, I'm climbing gradually, because that's how you stay steady.
I've never
Otherwise,
done any vocal training, but I know that when I do try to sing things, like if I'm working on GarageBand or something and I want to add like a cool little vocal track, something in the back, when I play it back, it's freaking flat. It's so annoying. It's like I
every
wasn't
time.
flat, but yeah, I was. So anyway, my point is these things it's going to require training in order to get good at it. All right, Jim, I have to go fairly soon.
That's actually pretty good timing because that kind of concludes the defining beats section of the lesson. And next time we could go on to define tempo and rhythm, etc. from there.
To summarize, music is obviously an auditory art form, but more and more as I age, Jim. At 41,
You age? Come on.
41 long years on this planet. And I think about music a lot. And as everyone that listens to this knows, I'm an aspiring amateur philosophizer. And music is the art of time, I think, more than it is the art of sound. It only sounds good because of your mastery of time. When you tune your drones, you're not mastering drones, you're mastering time. When Angus MacColl like beasts that 2/4 march, he's mastered the time elements of it. Right? And yeah, like I get it. His fingers are great. Yeah, he has great hands. But man, by the way, when you teach bagpipes, you realize, oh, that crossing noise, it's a timing problem. That grace note is too big in size. What do I mean by big? Long. It's too long in duration.
Taking too much time.
Time. It's all time. It all points to time. And then the ironic thing is, the last thing a bagpiper wants to practice on a daily basis is the basics of rhythm.
Yeah.
You just want to play the tune, right? But no. Let's get that rhythm good. And then see what the downstream. By the way, that was poor grammar on purpose. Okay, everybody, we're going to get that rhythm good. Okay, we're going to get that rhythm good. And then you might be amazed to find what the downstream effects of that are. See if you can spot, like when you have a problem with your piping, it could be anything. See if you can spot time in the problem and start with that. So it's like, man, the playing is really sloppy right now. Let's say me and Jim are trying to play together and it's just sounding really sloppy. All right. Can you spot time's role in this problem? If it's a musical problem, time is in there somewhere. Can I spot the time problem? Oh, the time problem must be Jim and I are not playing at the same time. Aha. That's the only possible reason it would sound sloppy. The tuning could be bad. But again, we already talked about tuning's relationship to time a little bit. But okay,
Right.
but our finger work is not being played in good unison. So that's a time issue. Let's get to the bottom of that. Cool. So we're not playing at the same time. Can we be more specific? Okay, cool. It seems to me like Jim is earlier than me on a lot of stuff. Cool. Let's work on that timing. If you can spot time's role in these problems and dig down into that, it's going to solve a lot of the issues. Sloppy embellishments. Interesting. If you have sloppy embellishments, can you spot time in that? I'm not going to give you that one. You guys have to think about that on your own. That's your homework. By the way, there's an amazing Victor Wooten video. So Victor Wooten's a famous bass guitar player where he's teaching you how to use a metronome and how to think about it. And he shows you a couple of cool exercises. Everyone should go on YouTube and type in Victor Wooten metronome and check that out. That was one of the moments. And by the way, shout out to the great snare drummer Tony Rashid for sharing that one day a long time ago. I remember pressing play and being like, oh crap. Like that's so it's an awesome thing. And also for me was the moment where I decided that the mantra bagpipers don't use metronomes is wrong.
It's funny that came up, Andy, just because I've sitting multiple times today. I've been sitting here thinking to myself, like, Victor Wooten said something about that. I'll not just
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Victor Wooten was bound to come up eventually.
Exactly. Yeah. Victor Wooten, I might be a blowhard, know-it-all poser, but I know Victor Wooten's good. So
He's the real deal.
Don't take my word for it. Know that what I'm saying is inspired by Victor Wooten.
Yeah.
Like I'm just an annoying bagpipe internet guy.
But Victor Wooten, he's legit.
He is.
Hey everybody, Andrew Douglas here from the Pipers Dojo, and I just want to say thanks so much for listening to today's iteration of the podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard here today, it would be super helpful to us and to a lot of bagpipers out there trying to find us. If you could give us a top-notch review on whatever platform you're using to listen to this podcast, particularly Apple, iTunes, and Spotify and things like that, your review would be really, really helpful. So if you have a moment today, definitely go over there and help us out. Other than that, until we meet again on the podcast or somewhere else, thanks again for listening.